In today's video, I'm going to compare two action cameras at different price points to find out what sets them apart and whether paying 6 times the price is actually worth it. Alright, so I'm going to start by saying obviously the more expensive one is going to be better, but by how much better is it? You may need all of the great features from this one to make your videos, or you may not. That's what we're going to find out today, and you're going to make the decision. So with that being said, let's start with the value proposition. Oh my god, that rhymed. At the time of this video, the Crosstour is priced at £40 UK and the DJI Osmo Action is priced at £239. So for £40, the Crosstour will give you a maximum resolution of 4K 24/25 frames per second that can be used 30 meters underwater with the provided cage, of course, Wi-Fi capabilities and 2.5 million accessories.
Oh my god, what?
Including but not limited to a Buzz Lightyear style laser watch thing.
Pew pew pew.
And you get a spare battery. For the £240 mark with the Osmo Action, you get 4K up to 60 frames per second, 1080 up to 240 frames per second. You get a much larger 1/2.3 inch CMOS sensor with rock steady enabled, so you get really nice image stabilization. Front facing camera. Oh look, it's me. And it can go 11 meters underwater without a cage. Literally, you can throw this in the water. You get 2 mounting devices and this cage thing that has the loop for all those accessories.
What?
So let's actually dive deeper into the differences. The Osmo is made of tough plastic with a leather grain roebuck finish. I had to Google that finish. It gives it slight indentations and bumps that add grip. The Crosstour is made of weaker, thinner plastic with a smooth matte finish with some geometric indentations on the side to help it with grip. I mean, just compared to... The Osmo is, however, heavier than the Crosstour at 124 grams compared to 64 grams, both with the battery. When it comes to displays, the Osmo Action is mainly touchscreen as opposed to only manual click controls for the Crosstour. But if you're somebody that likes to feel physical buttons, then this might be a good thing for you. But the Osmo Action has a button on the side which allows you to switch to the front LCD display. Hey look, it's me! The beauty about these small cameras is you can literally place them anywhere that you want, and so having a screen in front of it to see exactly what it is that your framing looks like is super important. The screen is larger on the Osmo Action at 2.25 inches as opposed to just under 2 inches with the Crosstour. On paper the difference is minor, but when you put them side by side you really do get to see a lot more with the Osmo Action than you do with the Crosstour. Plus the screen is brighter. The Crosstour has a fixed lens element, but the Osmo Action has a replaceable one, so should it break you can actually replace it. You can also add lenses with different field of views, ND filters, polarizers, etc. So it comes in clutch. I use these ND filters / polarizers by PGY Tech, and they literally just slide on and slide back on, which that's pretty satisfying. So yeah, because this is a fixed lens, it kind of sucks because it means you can't actually add an ND filter to have a smoother shutter speed. But just take into account that that's only if you really want to get really smooth motion blur, otherwise you don't really need it. Whereas the Osmo Action, you are actually able to slow down your shutter speed, so you get smoother time lapses and motion blur. I do have a video that you can see up here where I show you how to actually produce motion blur if you record a time lapse that doesn't have any, which is actually pretty cool. This is before I do the effect, and this is after I do the effect. So yeah, check it out if you're free. In terms of user interface, the Osmo Action has swipe commands, a nice menu system, lots of pro features such as picture profiles, ISO, shutter speed, etc. It also has voice commands. Everything you need is really easy to access. The Crosstour does have a basic menu system, but you do have to cycle through all of the modes before you get to the settings menu so that you're able to change your video resolution, which is kind of annoying if you're in a rush, whereas with the Osmo Action you can just swipe, click, go. But if there is one thing that separates these two cameras above everything we've talked about in this video so far, and maybe later on, is this.
Alright, so basically I thought that this was going to be an accurate comparison between the stabilization of both cameras, but since they're both rolling on a car, you can't really tell the difference. Anyway, the difference is the stabilization. I mean, the action cameras to be used when you're in action, and action equals movement. Like when you're on a dirt bike, surfboard, or a skateboard. Or like when you're doing a POV photography video. Or like when you're vlogging about your day.
So this is a vlog about my day. So what's up, cam fam? Today I'm having some sensation. So the stabilization on the Osmo Action is actually trying to compare with GoPro, and it's the main reason that I actually picked this up over the Crosstour Action that I already owned. Its stabilization method is called Rocksteady, and it works a treat. It literally glides through space and time in a nice smooth way. It just evens out all of the bumps, and it's really useful when it comes to shooting cinematic video. Having used the Crosstour for POV photography, I can say that it's quite shaky at 25 frames per second and pretty much no way to get smooth video out of it. It's also kind of distracting if you're watching a long POV video like this one I made. The Crosstour does actually have image stabilization, very slight image stabilization at 1080p, and I did some tests, but you really can't tell the difference. It looks the same. It literally looks the same. And also, if you're going to shoot either on 4K or 1080p with this really small sensor on this small camera, you're going to want to actually shoot in 4K so you get more resolution and a sharper image. If you're going to get the Osmo Action or you already own it, the best settings for smooth footage is to shoot it at 2.7K at 30 FPS, and you get really stable footage. Rocksteady just works the best in that mode. And also, if you're shooting at 30, you can slightly slow it down if you want to get smoother shots. At the end of the day, if you're not somebody that's going to use these cameras for movement and you're going to use them for video, and in this day and age where the production quality of videos is just so high, how do these actually stand against each other when it comes to image quality? In terms of sensor size, the Crosstour has a 20 megapixel sensor where the image stills at 60 megapixels, and the Osmo Action has a 12 megapixel sensor. The Osmo Action does have raw photo capabilities, which gives you more flexibility in post with your photos.
So as you can see here, I'm actually playing around with the raw photo of the Osmo Action, and you have the ability to bring up your shadows, drop your highlights, or even use presets like the Concrete Jungle preset that is available on my store. It's a cheap plug, but we move. If we actually zoom in close, we can see that the detail of the Osmo Action is much sharper and you get a lot more information in your pixels than the Crosstour. Also with the Crosstour, you have this really weird green tint. I feel like there's not a lot of information for the white balance to be very accurate. And as you can see in the grass, it's all very mushy compared to the Osmo Action. And when we look at the skyscrapers, I mean, it looks like a crayon drawing on the Crosstour, whereas the Osmo Action looks like a photo from an iPhone 6, you know?
So like I mentioned, the Crosstour maximum resolution is 4K 2425, whereas the Osmo Action is 4K 60. But here's a comparison of both cameras at 4K 25p. You can see if we zoom in into the same area, the Osmo Action is much sharper, colors are much more accurate, so the highlight roll-off is also better as the sensor has more dynamic range. Also, both cameras have slight different field of views. If you haven't already noticed, the Crosstour has 170 degrees field of view compared to 145 degrees from the Osmo Action. So you kind of get this fisheye look from the Crosstour. You might like it, you might not like it. The Osmo Action has a nice feature where you can actually de-warp the edges so they look less distorted. Although if you do stack these up on the Osmo Action, you do reduce a lot of your field of view in comparison to something like the GoPro. Here's an example of 4K 25, and now 4K 25 with Rocksteady, and now 4K 25 with Rocksteady and de-warp. Might want to determine whether you actually need a lot more field of view or not. So both cameras can do slow motion at 120p. The Osmo Action can do it at 1080, whereas 720p. So it's kind of mushy, but it's there if you need it. Also, the Osmo Action can do 240 frames at 1080p, so you can get shots like this. The Osmo Action also has 4K 60, so you can slow down your footage by over half speed in 4K, which is great for high quality slow-mo in your vlogs, in short films, action, sports, etc. So it's a really nice feature to have in such a small camera. Now here's a comparison between both cameras when it comes to low light. Here I'm sitting with just a candle. Sometimes you find yourself in poor lighting scenarios, so you want to know how well these cameras do in those scenarios. Both cameras shoot time lapses, although the Osmo Action produces a video after your time lapse, whereas the Crosstour does a very classic thing of just taking the photos and then you individually have to go into your software and make it into a video. So for content creators, for those wanting to just make it more efficient when it comes to your editing workflow, this is definitely a plus. You can have a hyperlapse mode on your Osmo Action, although I haven't really used that, but it looks pretty cool in the examples that I've seen. And the other thing is that you actually have HDR mode, and as you can see here, it basically captures more information in your shadows and in your highlights, so you have that high dynamic range effect. So what if you want to use these cameras for vlogging or B-roll? You're going to want some decent audio.
What's good, cam fam? Gonna make some coffee on the old non-espresso machine. What's good, cam fam? Today I want to make an espresso on the Nespresso.
So now you know exactly what it is you pay for with the more expensive action camera. Let me know your thoughts down below. I also left the links to both cameras in the description if you want to check them out. And if you're down there, make sure you leave the video a like if you enjoyed it, found it educational, found it entertaining. If you want to see a very funny unboxing video that I made of this camera when I first got it over 2 years ago, I believe, then I'll leave that in the description. And I don't even know what I was thinking back then, but it's a nice watch if you want to do that. Otherwise, I have a lot of other camera gear, tips, tricks, reviews that you might want to check out on the channel. And if you're on the channel, then why don't you consider subscribing? I'd really appreciate it. With that being said, I'll see you in the next video.